welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good week. I hope you had a good weekend. Fall, autumn, whatever you want to call it, is coming in the UK. Definitely making itself known today. Anyway, a couple of interesting things have happened in the week. Definitely didn't see this one coming. Not really heard anything about it up until now. But for Microsoft Teams developers of tabs, this might be really interesting. And this is something that the Teams team are doing differently around authentication for tabbed applications. Specifically, they're making it easier to do authentication, like SSO style authentication. So at the moment, you can do SSO authentication in your tabbed application, like a personal app, something like that. You can get the token from Teams of your logged in user, and you can then exchange that token for an access token and go and do some other things. There are some restrictions in doing that. There's some limitations. There's some things you need to jump through to do, but you can do it. But Microsoft want to make it easier for you. And so they have come up with something completely new, which is currently in preview, and which is called Nested App Authentication. Here's a blog post about it. It's a completely different way of doing the authentication for your Teams application. Under the hood, it uses MSAL, which is really nice because what you're going to get back is you're going to be able to take, because it's MSAL and everything else you're using is probably MSAL as well. You get that kind of consistency. Hopefully as well, this way of doing it will work, means your app will work the same, not just in Teams, but also in Outlook and on the Microsoft 365 online experience as well. All those places where technically your personal app works today, but you might hit some problems with auth. So this is kind of interesting. You don't need to run that middle tier service to do the token exchange stuff with this. That is all handled as well. And I think there's some stuff around cookies as well. You don't need third-party cookies, which is cool. This seems to be aimed kind of at enterprise customers, I would guess, and dev teams for those enterprise customers. We're doing some of these things like allowing third-party cookies, running these new back-end services, kind of are a real pain in the enterprise. So this is interesting to see. This is all in preview at the moment, and there are some jumping off points here for the documentation. There's also a sample app. This is new. I haven't played with this at all. I don't know how good it is, how easy it is. I'm going to definitely go and try out the sample app. And feedback and report back and see how it goes. But this is kind of interesting. Honestly, it's quite surprising. If I'm being completely honest, I'm surprised to see Microsoft innovating so much in this area with a new way to, really do something you could do before, just make it easier. This is really interesting. So gives me a lot of hope as well for the future of the kind of personal app, not just in Teams, because this will make it easier across Outlook and Microsoft 365. Maybe it's a precursor to making it easier to work with Copilot. I can't quite work that through in my head, but it's an interesting idea. So this is for you if you are about to write a Teams app that needs to do SSO. I would definitely go and look at this as the preferred way of doing it because it's so clearly the future. If you have an existing app that does SSO, you probably want to look at this and maybe evaluate what it would take to move over to replace your kind of on behalf of tokening with something like this, and then either maybe try it out because it's currently in preview. So maybe don't cut over to it, but try it out and then you're ready. But yeah, this is really interesting and kind of exciting. So interesting news there. All right, let's kind of move completely somewhere else. And last week we talked a little bit about some new graph APIs for Teams webinar experiences being generally available. The thing that we were missing from that announcement were APIs for Town Hall, and they are now available as well. So a week later, another blog post, and very similar looking blog post to the one before it in terms of here are the different types of meetings, here's what's new, here are the personas, and here's what you can build. The structure of the blog post is very similar, but yeah, this is cool. This is interesting, for sure. This is good to see. We were promised this kind of a few months ago when they deprecated the older ones. They said there are going to be new APIs coming for all of the different types of meeting types. So it's good to see them now for webinars and town halls as well. Yep, this is all good, and they're now generally available. So if you've been waiting on that to build them into your products or at least go live, you can absolutely go crazy now. Go for it. They're GA, they're supported, so you can do it. All right. Just one more thing to talk about, which I kind of think is interesting, and it's some research stuff that actually Slack have done, which I think is interesting. And Slack have kind of defined 5 different AI personas. So this is a blog post from NoJitter who wrote this up, and NoJitter cover all sorts of UC stuff, not just Microsoft-based stuff, all the connections. And they've written this one up based on some research that Slack did. This is their write-up about it. No, it's not. That looks like the old one. So that's interesting. Let me try and fix that. I don't know how I'm going to fix that, but maybe if let's have a look. Nope, that doesn't fix it either. All right, I might just talk this one through because it's a bit of a. I have no idea how to fix that. I could try. Nope, never mind. I think we're just going to go with it. I'm going to talk it through. So Slack have done this research around different types of AI users, and they've basically persona mapping. And this is interesting because I think this is completely not just for Slack. Like this makes complete sense across the board, right? So there are these 5 different types. The maximalist, using AI multiple times a week. The underground, kind of like maximalist, they're using it lots, but they don't shout about it. They're kind of quiet about it, and they use it, but they don't tell anyone. The rebels, they don't like the AI stuff. They're very anti it, and they think it's unfair when people do use it. The super fan are excited about it, but they're not really making the most of it. But they're talking about it a lot, but they're not using it. And the observer, they're not against it. They're just like watching to see what happens, and that's interesting. And Slack, in their research, have done this persona mapping, and they reckon about 30% of people are maximalists, 20% are underground, 20% are rebels, 15-ish% are super fans, and 15%-ish are observers, which is very interesting. And the reason that you should go and read this blog post, and I'll put it in the notes. I'm sorry I can't show it. But yeah, it's interesting because it kind of maps and dovetails nicely with the idea of employee personas and how you do messaging to employees based on the different persona types. I think this is going to be key in rolling out and talking about and promoting AI to those different personas, because how you talk about a new feature for something you can do in AI is going to be very different to your maximalist, to your rebel, to your superfan, to your observer, right? So there are different messages for different people. And so I think that's got to be in our minds. I'd say probably this group of people, we're either maximalists or super fans, maybe we're observers. We're kind of forward leaning into tech and eager to be on the front foot. But, lots of our colleagues are not. And it's important to make sure that their needs are addressed as well. All right, I think that's everything I want to talk about this week. Whatever it is you're doing this week, I hope you have a great one. And I will talk to you again next week. Have a great one.